We're talking about factoring polynomials, and here we have 16g to the fourth minus 625. So we have a binomial joined by subtraction. So think difference of squares or difference of cubes. And the reason I'm thinking difference of squares is because we have a g to the fourth, so that lends itself better to square root. So 16g to the fourth, we take the square root of that, and that becomes 4g squared. We can also check 625, and we take the square root, and that becomes 25. So when we do difference of squares, we take the first perfect square, which is 4g squared, and we take the second perfect square, and we join them with opposite signs for a conjugate pair. So we have plus and minus. One more time that we notice, we have 4g squared minus 25, which is, again, another perfect square. So 4g squared, if we take the square root of that, is 2g. And then if we take the square root of 25, that is equal to 5. And so we get, again, we write these two down, 2g, 5, 2g, 5, and we join it with opposite signs, so for our conjugate pair. And then we write down our last term, our last binomial. Now we can find out what the zeros are. So for each one of these, we set them equal to 0. For the zero product property, so we have first one, 2g minus 5. 2g minus 5 is equal to 0. So we add 5 to both sides. 2g is equal to positive 5, divide by 2. G is equal to 5 over 2. We do the same, so we check that one. We check the next one. We have 2g plus 5 is equal to 0. So we subtract 5. We get 2g is equal to negative 5. Divide by 2. And then we get g is equal to negative 5 over 2. And then our last one is 4g squared plus 25 is equal to 0. So we subtract 25, and we get 4g squared equals negative 25. Divide by 4, and we get g squared is equal to negative 25 over 4. And to get g by itself, we take the square root, and we get g. Because we were solving and we took the square root, we have to do plus or minus, and that is going to be equal to the square root of 25 over the square root of 4 times the square root of negative 1. We know that the square root of negative 1 is equal to I. So our answer is g equals plus or minus the square root of 25, which is 5, the square root of 4, which is 2, and then we have our I. So our answer is g equals negative 5 over 2, 5 over 2, positive 5 over 2, I, and negative 5 over 2, I.